Okay, part two. So now we're going to cover research and incentive funds, what they are, what they're used for, how they're calculated and dispensed. So per the FNA rates brochure that I showed to you in the FNA video, this is a snippet straight from there. The research incentive funds are equivalent to 12% of recovered FNA, research overhead, facilities, and administration. They're distributed at the college level, to the department and faculty, and therefore research-related expenses that have no other funding. This was formerly known as overhead return because it was part of that FNA, I assume. But now the sort of equivalent to 12% suggests that it doesn't come from the FNA, and that's why it's not part of the list that you see, the general sponsored programs. It's not part of this list that you see in here, right? There's no research incentive fund, so I think it comes from a different pool of money, but it's equivalent to the incentive funds. And obviously, since you have FNA that gets returned to the college, yeah, I won't make that jump because people will get mad at me. Okay. Okay, so what is a good use of research incentive funds? Is pulled from the College of Engineering website. It's encouraged to develop, more research, whatever enhancing research administration infrastructure is. I would love to see that. Research equipment and instrumentation, graduate assistantships, supplies. And so these are unrestricted funds, generally that can be used however people deem fit. A lot of times you'll see like seed initiatives, like the college or the university will put out grants for researchers to start something small like $50,000 for one PI, or maybe to sort of enhance collaboration, to say here's $50,000, go see what you can do with it, and then hope that seed funding propagates more large grants. Okay, so how do research incentive funds break down? So this is a little bit of an echo here of the FNA that I showed you earlier, but just super basic again. $1 million grant, no cost share, $630,000 in research costs, $370 in FNA, and then so just like it said up top, 12%. Or research incentive funds is equivalent to 12% of the research award. So, the recovered FNA. From what I've heard, sort of in passing, I couldn't find it on any websites again, but to the best of my knowledge, this is generally how it works. The 12% breaks down 2 to 10. If you hear otherwise, you can feel free to switch those numbers around. But 2% stays with the college, and then 10% goes to the department. And general practice is that the department splits it up between department and faculty, but that's completely at the department's discretion, whether that's department head or some sort of committee, varies. But rule of thumb is that it's either a 1 to 2 or 2 to 1 distribution between the department and faculty. So I have both of those scenarios covered here, with $12,000 and $24,000 going to each group respectively. And so depending on, if it's in the faculty member's favor or in the department's favor, you see faculty getting between 1.23 to 2.46% of the research funds back in the form of research incentive funds. But overall, that's like a very, very small amount. $12,000 to $24,000 on $1 million worth of research. And keep in mind, a lot of times when you're applying to like a $1 million grant, maybe it's between you and a different faculty member. So, it has to be like the amount of research that you personally are doing, not the whole thing of the grant, right? And FYI faculty, that the distribution of those RIF funds is determined by the EPF that you fill out when you apply for a grant that you're required to fill out before, OSP will click submit. So those percentages do actually matter, and usually you're asked to fill them out once a year, recurring, to, so that if the amount of work done between PIs is done differently year to year, the RIF can reflect that. Okay, so then how does this, $12,000 to $24,000, let's put that in sort of terms that make more sense in practice. So keep in mind that a lot of time what research incentive funds are going to be used for, just like it says up here, is for research equipment and instrumentation and graduate assistantships, research-related expenses that there is no other funding for. So research equipment and instrumentation, general use things cannot be bought by one project's grant because it's not specific to that project, and it's not, the funding agency of that project's, responsibility to subsidize other research, right? Makes sense? So general research equipment has to be provided, has to be bought through unrestricted faculty funds. Now that could also come through an endowment or a gift, but more often than not, it's RIF funds. And also, obviously, you're going to have, wear and tear on equipment and equipment that breaks. So it's important that faculty have this means of getting a nest egg of unrestricted funds that they can prepare for those rainy days. And it also, and graduate students' assistantships are also a great idea of what research funds can be used for, unrestricted funds can be used for, because, if a graduate student doesn't graduate on time, or, NSF grants usually cover a graduate student for 3 years. So where does that other year come from? Now, more often than not, half of it, one semester is covered by the department, but that still leaves a semester hanging out there and maybe a summer. So where does that get picked up is a big question. So, if faculty have that little bit of funds, it's really critical. So to put it in terms, I did the math on how much a graduate student for 1 year costs faculty researcher using unrestricted funds. I make the distinction of using unrestricted funds because when a faculty member is using unrestricted funds to pay for a graduate student, there's no overhead on it. Whereas like the federal grant will have overhead, and that breakdown is here below, so you can see the full thing. In case the fringe rates or something fluctuate, you're welcome to adjust them for accuracy. But as you can see, on a federal grant, it would be $79,000, and here it's $56,000. So coming back to here, and that's $56,000 is the cost of a graduate student stipend. Of that is only $34,000, and they're probably only seeing $24,000 realistically after taxes and stuff. Just as sort of a framework, they're seeing less than half of the money that they cost, right? Just important to sort of, as you're conceptualizing this, I think. Anyway, so at that cost of $56,000, a graduate student for 1 year would require that a faculty member, to pay for it with RIF funds, faculty member would have to perform $4.6 to $2.3 million worth of research, depending on whether the RIF fund distribution was in or out of their favor. That is a lot of research. For a $5,000 piece of equipment, just over the line for what equipment is considered, it's between $203,000 and $407,000. For an undergraduate summer research fellowship, I'm baselining that as $6,000, which is pretty standard. $2,000 a month for an undergraduate to perform summer research is between $240,000 and $490,000. Again, like, you sort of realize how much work it takes just to acquire these very small portion of RIF funds that allow faculty to have the flexibility to, maintain their research programs and remain competitive. Because, having graduate students to finish off research that they're conducting, having the equipment to conduct the research, or, providing an undergraduate student a summer research to go after, high risk research, and just sort of the, broader impact of mentorship is important to a major research university and research competitiveness. Okay, so that covers research incentive funds. Hope that gives you guys clarity, especially to faculty.